Good morning, whoever it is. Doesn't show me. Started a little bit early so we could make sure we got people in here. Hope you all have your coffee. Good morning, Allison. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Jill. You are ready to go. Thinking we might need to rebrand this to be called like Coffee and Conversations or something. Because, I always have my coffee. Jill always has her coffee. My mom probably has her Diet Coke at this point. Allison, I don't know what you drink. There's 6 of you. I don't know the other 3 what y'all drink, but coffee is always good, especially when it's in my nice giant mug. As a coffee drinker, I refuse to have any that we use on a regular basis that are less than 14 ounces. They all need to be 16 or 20 in my mind. Allison drinks water. All right, there you go. I drink water too, Allison. It's filtered through coffee grounds. It's filtered water. It's the best kind for you. Amber rolls her eyes whenever I say that. She says that doesn't count. So, good morning, friends. I hope you're having a good day today as we kick off our Tuesday, our devotional time. Hopefully by now, if you've been on the email or you've looked at Facebook, you've checked out the survey that I sent out and you've filled it out. It'd be really helpful for us as the pastors as we plan things out and as the ministry leaders as we look to the fall. And so we just, we want to make sure we're planning appropriately. And so by having you fill out those surveys, it's helpful, particularly with church services in mind on Sunday morning, because the size of our gathering is limited currently by some state regulations. And so we're going to probably have to have multiple services. That's just my guess, because we're limited to 50. And at this point, I think we have more than 50 people that will want to attend in person. So it would be really helpful if you filled those out. If you have not, go do that, and I will share it with the pastors. Oh, Leanne, you and my mom would get along great. My mom loves Diet Coke. So, so I'm glad a lot of you filled it out. I think actually everyone that's commented so far has filled one out. So I imagine most of you have already done that. But if you haven't and you're watching this later, it'd be really helpful for us to kind of have an idea of who plans to come to in-person services and whatnot. And just as we're looking to the fall, it's going to start raining soon. And I don't want to stand in the rain to preach. I mean, I will. If that's what Jesus asked, I would do it. But when I have a building as an option, I'm going to lean towards that. And it's going to get cold too. And you all like to not be cold. So no one wants to be cold and wet and whatnot. So anyhow, that would be super helpful. And just kind of give you a brief snapshot for where we're going in soon. Anyhow, so what I've been thinking about, this is actually something I was thinking about recently, and something as over the weekend, and I thought, this would be a good topic to share. One of the things that struck me when I first became a Christian, something that I just noticed, maybe even before I became a Christian, I don't remember exactly when in the time frame it occurred, but something I noticed in the guys that I became friends with that were believers, that were claimed to be Christians, who were walking with the Lord at that point in time, was the way they talked with each other, the way they interacted with each other was really different. Their speech was different than what I observed in my non-believing friends. And as I'm saying this, I recall that it was after I became a believer, because there was a gentleman that I didn't know before I became a believer that I met after the fact, and his speech really struck me. This group of guy friends that I met I met street racing, and they were into cars and they were believers. I don't know if any of them street raced at that point in time, but anyhow, that's besides the point. Their speech, the way they talked to one another, the way they joked, it was different than the way that my non-believing friends talked. Their speech, rather than breaking down, actually built up. Their jokes weren't cutting. They said things in such a way that it was uplifting to one another rather than breaking down. And over the weekend we went camping with people from the church, and there was a young man. He is a grown up and he works a full-time job, but he's younger than me, so he's a young man. But he's an adult. He was sailing, and I made some jokes, and Amber was like, she leaned over to me and she's like, "Be nice." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." My speech I was not building him up in my speech. And this is actually something that the Lord had impressed upon me last week or the week before, that, as I've been talking, I've observed recently that I can sometimes use some cutting jokes. And the Lord, in his grace and his sovereignty, has let me see that in my life right now. And so it's something that I've observed in myself, and I'm wanting to correct that. And Amber pointed it out to me, and I didn't even realize it. It is so easy to let our speech be reflective of kind of just the ways of the world, the ways that we are not, it just creeps in. We're not even intentionally meaning to do it. But if we're not assessing it, our speech can be, it can break down. The book of James in chapter 3, it says that our tongue is like a fire, and it destroys. And the verses that I want us to reflect upon today are actually Colossians 4:6 and Ephesians 4:29. And the first one, so Colossians 4:6 says, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person." So this idea that our speech needs to be gracious or gift-giving, needs to be loving and caring, and it also needs to be seasoned with salt, meaning it needs to be restorative and build up and be helpful. It needs to be treated and tended to. And so we don't want to just let our words just flow as they might, unattended, but we want to make sure that what is coming from our mouth is actually building up. And this is more the point of what Paul makes in Ephesians 4:29. He says, "Let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear it." So I've been reflecting and thinking upon how often do the jokes that I tell, the speech that I use, do they build up or do they break down? Are they restorative? Are they helpful? Or are they cutting? And it can be so easy to let our speech be reflective of worldly types of humor that we see on television, and where one character breaks down another character. I think of classic television shows that were even considered family friendly, where so often the one of the characters is broken down by the jokes that are said and told about, rather than being built up. You think of even shows that are considered family friendly now, like Last Man Standing, where they're so often, the family is they are loving to each other and they're nice, but every so often, and it happens in every episode, they have some cutting humor towards another person in the family. They'll make fun of the one daughter who's kind of the dumb one, or they'll make fun of the one who got pregnant out of marriage, and so they'll break her down. And how often does our joking in our speech reflect that? How often do we make jokes that are, rather than making whole, they're cutting? And one of the things that I think we should bear in mind is that Jesus tells us that it's not what goes into a person that defiles them, but what comes out of them, because it reveals what's in their heart. So as we think about our speech, what is our speech reflecting of what's going on inside of us? And this is, like I said, friends, this is something that I've been reflecting upon in my own life. Like, what types of jokes am I telling? Am I telling jokes that are at the expense of other people? Or am I telling jokes that don't cut other people down? And that's a tall order to think about. But I think as we consider Christian community and love and our speech, it can be a testimony to what God has done in us, that as we have received grace, we extend grace, we give grace, even in our humor. And that's what the Lord has been impressing upon me over the past few days. And I thought it would be worthwhile to share with you guys. I hope that as you think about your speech and you go about your speech on a regular basis, that you would be encouraged to use speech that is beneficial and uplifting to those around you, that you would seek to build them up. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not always going to say hard things to someone, because sometimes you need to say hard things. Sometimes the loving thing to do is to tell someone the truth. Now, when you say it, you need to be nice about it. Yes, Lance, filtered water, filtered through coffee grounds. Anyhow, Lance is saying, I prefer filtered water. See, look at Lance right there. Isn't that fantastic? All right. So, yes, that's what I want to encourage you to consider. Just think about your speech as you go about your days. Particularly think about your jokes that you're telling or the humor you're reflecting. Are you seeking to break someone down? Are you making those cutting jokes? Even if your long-term intent is not to harm someone, but it's just, oh, this is a zinger, I'm going to get him. And is that really speech that is building up? Is that speech that is good for building up? Something I think we need to consider. So I hope as you go about your week, you'll assess your speech, whether it be to your family member, your friends, something you say on Facebook, something you share. What are the things you're doing? How is it at work? And I hope you all are doing well. Does anyone have any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to know about as we get ready to shut this down? Awesome, Steve. That's great. So Stephen is Stephen. I mean, that's what your Facebook profile says. Steve is a man that we met in Vallejo when I was pastoring, and he worked he is a member at another church, and he volunteered his time, and he's a great guy. His wife was in charge of VBS at their church, and so we actually had shared our VBS decorations with them because their VBS was after ours, so we were able to pass on a bunch of VBS decorations to them. I think Steve, did we give you a submarine decoration? I think that was the year we did that. I think we passed on a giant submarine that someone had made. So Steve's a good guy, and I'm glad he's joining us this morning. All right. Well, friends, if you have any thoughts or questions, you need anything, you let me know. You can email me, message us on Facebook, and we will get back to you. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in person on Sunday for Church on the Lawn. I'm excited about the passage we're going to go through as we consider faith-filled prayer in the face of fear. So I will see you then, and I hope you have a fantastic week. All right, stay safe, friends.